I'm Grace Conneally, a fourth-year student at the University of Limerick. My undergraduate research studies women of Irish history and is an evaluation and analysis of the double marginality of 20th century Republican Irish women. So, what does this mean? Essentially, my research studies the importance of Republican Irish women throughout the 1900s. This includes the 1916 Easter Rising, the War of Independence, the Civil War, and right through to the conflict in Northern Ireland. The word marginality stems from the word marginalisation, and it is a term associated with the act of undervaluing something or someone to be left on the sideline or in the margins of society. I began this research with a passion for Irish history and could not help but notice the marginalisation of our Irish women. This presents the question, what did they do, if anything? And if they were active in Ireland's revolutions, why do we not know more about them? This, coupled with the idea that not only were women marginalised in the 20th century, historically speaking, but that they remain marginalised still in the 21st century insofar as we don't know of them, or at least we know very little about them. And so, I present this new concept of the double marginality of Republican Irish women. A fitting way in which one can define their marginalisation in both the historical context and still today in the way in which this history is actively recalled. Existing research and publications leave little to no information about the roles of our Irish women. And those who do reference Irish women acknowledge that they have not received any recognition for the roles they had in Irish history. Instead, they are branded as unseen, forgotten, and written out of Irish history. Research asks the question, what did the women do anyway? The fact, however, that research acknowledges the need to address the imbalance in historical accounts between the genders suggests they were indeed forgotten from history. This is an opinion which I found to be mutual to many publications and many scholars. We owe these women their histories back. We owe these women to lift the veil of silence that has lain upon their experiences, and we owe these women a rewriting back into the history books. So what did Irish Republican women do throughout this time, and what was so significant about them? The obvious and unglamorous tasks of cooking, cleaning, caring for the wounded, and rearing families was all carried out by the work of Irish women. But also, they fundraised for the IRA volunteers, they provided safe houses for the Republican men who would have been on the run, and they were also known as basket or courier girls because of their job role of delivering packages and goods to different IRA units across the country by bike. Many of these women would have been members of Conneally. Their badge was highly symbolic of how the women viewed themselves. The abbreviated letters of Conneally mounted upon a rifle is a reminder that Irish women, as well as men, possessed and used armed weapons and received weapon training, including drilling and signalling. The fact of the matter is, the revolutions of Ireland's past would not have taken place without the equal work of these Irish women, but the history books fail to remember this. For instance, we remember Eamon de Valera, but fewer people will have heard of Kathleen O'Connell, de Valera's personal secretary. Unbeknown to many, but played as crucial a role as any in the uprisings of the revolutionary era. We remember Pádraig Pearse, but very few remember the name Elizabeth O'Farrell, who stayed with him in the GPO during the Easter Rising and carried his surrender to the British. Similarly, we remember names such as James Conneally, but fail to honour his counterpart Winifred Carney, who was reported to have stayed with him in the GPO for almost the full week, tending to the wounded and preparing meals for the men. Josephine McGowan, who has been somewhat forgotten by the history books, served in the Marrowbone Lane garrison during the Easter Rising. Her Republican credentials were impeccable. Among them are hundreds of others, such as Margaret Skinner, the expert behind the sniper, alongside Countess Markievicz, one of the most renowned women of 20th century Irish history. During the conflict of Northern Ireland, 3 brave women by the names of Mary Doyle, Margaret Nugent and Mairead Farrell endured hunger strike in Armagh Jail, alongside the renowned 10 male hunger strikers, including the famous Bobby Sands. Whilst the work of these women were known to their immediate circles, seldom are they known publicly on a more national scale. My research found testimonials of people admitting their lack of knowledge to the work and role of these Irish women. And so, up until this point of research, 2 things have become extremely clear. 1. Irish Republican women played as important a role as any, and 2. In historical records, these women have been marginalised. These women have been sidelined, undervalued and forgotten about in 20th century Irish history. Which brings us to question, have we evolved? Or are we no better than our predecessors who silenced these Republican Irish women? In order to see for myself if these Irish Republican women have been marginalised in both the past and present, I used both print and new media as instruments by which knowledge can be measured. The print studying the past and the new media studying the present. Spotify, the world's leading streaming platform for music, was the obvious choice for me. Music has not only been an integral part of Irish culture and society, but it has also been around for generations as a method of passing on knowledge and stories. I used Spotify's top search result playlists for Republican Irish music. This means that anyone who tries to search for Republican Irish music on Spotify will most likely find themselves listening to this specific playlist. I found that of the 91 songs on this playlist, 80.2% of songs were male-focused. These songs honour the brave, heroic Irish men who fought for Ireland's freedom. Of these songs, only 2.2% honoured our female Republicans. And so, if a novice to Irish Republican history listens to this playlist, it is only natural that they would presume it was a men's war and that women played no role in Ireland's fight for independence. What's more is when you analyse these findings even further, I found that of these 91 songs, the male-dominant songs are being streamed more than 50 million times to that of the female songs. And of almost 6.5 million female songs that were streamed, over 6 million of these streams, or 95% of them, were as a result of the song Grace. A song which commodifies women as lovers to the brave revolutionary men who fought for Irish freedom. Whilst the title of the song refers to a woman, the song is in fact about the signatory Joseph Mary Plunkett who married Grace in Kilmainham jail prior to his execution in 1916. No credible respect is given to women in the sense of active republicanism, only as a lover. And so, this research concludes that yes, women were marginalised throughout 20th century Irish history, but that they continue to be marginalised still today in the 21st century in the way in which we remember our history. Whilst I do believe that things are changing, they just aren't doing so fast enough, and current trends of society prove this. For instance, many women still take on the role of carers, nursing and family homemakers, with nursing just not deemed a great job among men, which is seen by women accounting for 91.8% of nurses and 84.4% of health and social care professionals, job roles which mirror their historical stereotypes to which they were confined to. Not to mention, if we take a more political and economical stance on the matter, females accounted for only 34.4% of managerial positions in the years between 2014 to 2020, in comparison to the 65.6% of males. Of the current Dáil Éireann, women make up only 22.5% of our government, in comparison to 77.5% males. As the saying goes, you can't be what you can't see. And with little recognition given to these women in the history books, I think that it is no wonder that there are not more women taking on these leading roles. Instead, they are turning to their predefined health and social care job roles. The past is terrifyingly mirroring the present, because women of today cannot learn from women of yesterday if they are not presented to us in their entirety. How can we know who we are if we don't know who we were? History is not the story of strangers. It is the story of us had we been born a little earlier.